Chapter 10, Graphical User Interfaces, Part 5. A common error is forgetting to repaint. So when you change the data in a painted component, the component is not automatically updated. You must call the repaint method of the component, and the best place to call repaint is in the method of your component that modifies the data values. So if you update the data, make sure the last thing you do is call repaint. Also, by default, components have zero width and height. So if you are creating a new component and you don't specify the width and height, you might wind up with a component that has zero width and zero height. In other words, you can't see it. So make sure that you, one remedy is to call the set preferred size method, which you can pass a new dimension with a width and a height. In this example, they use defined constants for chart width and chart height. You don't have to do that. You could just put some numbers in there instead, some integer values. And set preferred size is one option. You can also just note that it is frequently overlooked and make sure that you specify the width and the height when you're creating your J components. So steps to drawing shapes. You have to determine the shapes that are needed for your drawing. So what squares and rectangles, what circles and ellipses, what lines and text. It's not just as easy as it is when we've been outputting text all the way along, and that's pretty straightforward. But when you are drawing shapes, you really have to deconstruct it and think about all the component parts that make up that shape. For example, if we want to draw this flag, you've got 3 different rectangles there that need to be drawn, each with their own XY upper left-hand corners and their own width and their own height. So you write Java statements to draw these shapes. So in the case of the previous one, we had those 3 different rectangles, and if possible, use variables and offsets for the size and location. So we can say, like x left plus 2 times width divided by 3 to calculate where that next x value should go, rather than to try to hard code it, because that means we could only update the first one and then let the other ones automatically follow. Consider using methods or classes for repetitive steps. So it's very handy to be able to put some steps inside a method and then just call that method repeatedly rather than rewriting code. Anytime that we are writing the same code more than once, we have to pause and ask ourselves, is there a better way? And certainly methods will lead to code reuse, which is preferred. Place your drawing instructions inside the paint component method, and if the drawing is complex, you might want to use method calls inside paint component rather than just your drawing instructions. Finally, write the viewer class. So to provide a viewer class with a main method in which you construct a frame, add your component, and then make your frame visible.